What's going on, everybody? It's Joey back with another Millie Maker video for week 6 of the NFL season on DraftKings. But before we get into that, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at JoeyCarrion_. That's my main social media that I use. Just my personal Twitter if anybody wants to follow that. Be sure to also follow the DFS Dose on Twitter at the DFS Dose. That's my podcast with two of my best friends where we go over the entire NFL slate for cash games, GPPs, all that good stuff. So go ahead, give that a listen and a follow. New episodes every Friday for that. Also, be sure to subscribe, share the video, leave a comment, leave a question. I check every single comment and try to engage with you guys. So go ahead, comment if you have a question on a 1v1, a 2v2, whatever's on your mind, honestly. You can just go ahead, comment. With that being said, let's just get right into this slate. So we have a 10-game slate, which means that it's going to be a very small player pool for a large field contest such as the Millie Maker. Especially for me, I'm definitely going to zero in on specific players for this week. But without further ado, let's just start off with quarterbacks. Obviously, we got the top guys at Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson that round out the top of the quarterback pool, and I think Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson is my favorite plays in this range. Just in terms of a slate overview, real quick, there's really little to no value. Hopefully, some opens up throughout the week, but as of right now, on Wednesday when I'm recording this, there's not much value. So I don't really like spending $7,500 for a quarterback in GPPs. And if we just take a look at some of the previous Millie Maker contest history, let's just check into last week's. We saw Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback to have for the Millie Maker. This was the winning lineup, an absurd 331. But Teddy Bridgewater was only 5,200, went at 2.7% ownership. So we need to find a low-owned quarterback, and we're not going to spend up. It's just that simple. So I like Mahomes, but I don't think he's necessary to win the Millie Maker because you need the salary elsewhere. I do like Lamar Jackson as he's in a plus matchup against the Bengals at home. So I do love Lamar Jackson this week. Obviously, Watson in a positive game script against the Chiefs. Hopefully, Mahomes is healthy. If he's healthy, that game will be most likely the highest scoring game on the slate. So you want some pieces of that, but I don't think it's necessary to go to Mahomes or Watson this week. Although Watson did put up an absurd 44 points last week at home against the Falcons. But Kansas City's always a tough place to play. So I like Watson, but I don't think he's necessary. Russell Wilson, I probably won't go there. My favorite quarterback in terms of this mid-range, 65 to 5,500, is definitely Matt Ryan. I think it's safe to run it back with him this week on the road in Arizona. Matt Ryan has just been, he's just been throwing the ball a lot, and that's what you want. And we all know what the Cardinals bring to the table in terms of pace of play. I don't need to keep on saying that over and over, but the Falcons are just going to run more plays. Matt Ryan averaging well over 40 pass attempts every week, in and out. Put up 35 points last week against the Texans. I think he has a similar performance this week against the Cardinals, who have a worse secondary than the Texans, and I think this could be a prime spot to capitalize on Julio's disappointing weeks, and I also love pairing them together, Ryan and Julio. Also love Kyler Murray. The Falcons' defense is just bad. They can't stop anybody, but 6,500 is, it's definitely kind of high for Murray. He definitely hasn't had a ceiling game yet. He's only hit 25 points as a ceiling so far. I think he has 35-point potential, but he just isn't there as a passer right now. They really don't have any pieces in the receiving game right now besides Fitzgerald. Christian Kirk is hurt, so I probably will not go there. I don't mind Dak. Actually, I love Dak on the road against the Jets. The Cowboys' passing offense has just been electric to start the year so far, so I love Dak. Only 6,200. Jared Goff probably won't go there against the Niners, who have one of the best defenses to start the year so far in the NFL. But Jared Goff always performs better at home, so that is something to keep in mind. I definitely won't go in this range. Andy Dalton, Bridgewater, they're not in play for me. I think there is some value at quarterback this week, though, in GPPs. I mean, in cash games, I like paying up to Matt Ryan just because he's safe. You know what you're going to get with him. But if you want to take a shot on a lower-owned guy, which I think is ultimately the most optimal move for the MILLY maker this week, I love Kirk Cousins at home against the Eagles. We know the Eagles are a pass funnel, so Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw more. You can't run on the Eagles. So I love Kirk Cousins, 5,200. I think he has 25-point upside. I love Minshew at 5K at home against the Saints, who are also a pass funnel to start this year. Minshew has just been really, really good, really solid. Hasn't put up less than 16 points in a game. Put up 27 last week on the road in Carolina. I think he has some GPP winning potential, especially if you compare him with his right pieces in the receiving game. I love Minshew this week. Just to talk about two more quarterbacks, we gotta take a look at this Redskins Dolphins game. I know two tanking teams, two just bad teams. Jay Gruden got fired this week for the Redskins, or last week for the Redskins, I should say. But the defenses are just so bad. Case Keenum is 5K. He's projected to be the starter again on the road in Miami, who by all means just have the worst pass defense, the worst rush defense out of any team in the entire NFL. But the Redskins really don't have any pieces besides Terry McLaurin, so I probably won't go there. But my favorite play is Josh Rosen at 4,500. I think this is a week where you can get kind of crazy. And he's just really, really cheap, and he's in probably one of the best spots that the Dolphins will see all season. So I love paying down for Rosen this week at 4,500. I know it might be a 3D chess move and could easily backfire, but I think there is some upside with playing Rosen this week, especially if the Dolphins can protect him, as he's one of the better quarterbacks from a clean pocket, but he rarely gets a clean pocket. So let's move on to running back. Obviously, we got our top guys with Zeke, Cook, Kamara, David Johnson. Just to talk about these guys real quick, I love Zeke this week. Don't like Cook, I will say that. I think Dalvin Cook is a hashtag full fade this week at 8,400 at home against the Eagles. The Eagles' run defense is just nasty. Like, they are really good. You can't really run the ball on the Eagles' run defense, so I think that's a fade. But Dalvin Cook is game flow proof. He'll catch passes, as we can see right here. 6 targets, 8, 5, 3, 2. 6 catches in back-to-back games. He could definitely get there, and it might be hard to fade him, but I'm on hashtag fade Dalvin Cook. Alvin Kamara, David Johnson, these are two of my favorite running back plays on the week. Alvin Kamara at 8,000. I think he's just an absolute smash play, especially if Ramsey comes back. That means the Saints might have trouble throwing the ball, but Jacksonville, their run defense has been exposed this season. Last week to Christian McCaffrey, the week before to the Broncos running backs. I just think this is a spot to target Alvin Kamara, who's getting his 20 touches a game. 25 touches, good targets in the passing game, and Bridgewater has been kind of serviceable. And we're due for Alvin Kamara ceiling week, so I think this is it. 8,000, I love him. I'll lock him in. David Johnson, he has a bad back, as we can see right here. He's been sidelined this week in practice, but if he plays, he's one of the best running back plays on the board. So I love him. Just in terms of his mid-range, we have a loaded mid-range at running back. Mark Ingram in a great spot at home against Cincinnati. Fournette at home against the Saints in the same game. Le'Veon Bell is just way too cheap, 6,400. We got Nick Chubb at 7,300 at home against the Hawks. I don't mind Chubb personally, but I think I won't go there. That definitely could backfire as well. I think Le'Veon Bell is just way too cheap for his role in the Jets offense, and not to mention they're getting Sam Darnold back from mono, and he will pepper Lev with targets. And even without Darnold, he's been peppered with targets. 10, 4, 9, 23 targets over 3 games. Just absolutely insane. 32 targets to start the year. He's on pace to set his career high in catches and in targets. And Dallas is not a very scary matchup in terms of rush defense and defense against pass-catching running backs. So I do love Le'Veon a lot at 6,400. Just a clear misprice. I think he's a lock in all formats. Then we got guys like Chris Carson, Devontae Freeman, Joe Mixon, Phillip Lindsay, Chris Thompson. I don't mind these guys. My favorite play out of this range is Chris Carson. I think it's just a clear misprice. Like 27 attempts last week, 1 catch, 22 points. If he's getting 20 plus touches, I think that is just phenomenal value for a 6K running back. It's just hard to pass up, especially in large field tournaments where you want your volume at running back, and I think he can provide that as a lower owned option this week. I don't like Freeman. The Falcons just refuse to run the ball. Damian Williams, don't really care for him. Texans' run defense is pretty good this year. McCoy, no. Joe Mixon, I don't mind him. But the Bengals' offense is just atrocious, and he has shown no upside this year, so I can't trust him. But I think there is some guys in this lower range. Chase Edmonds, 4,600. If David Johnson does end up missing this game, he will be the chalk, absolute, and I think it'll be good chalk if Edmonds becomes a starter and assumes those David Johnson touches. So I love him if David Johnson misses. I think the best value play out of this range is Tevin Coleman, 4,400. Came back last week against the Browns, had 16 attempts for 97 yards and a touchdown. I think if he's going to get 15 to 20 carries, and the Niners want to run the ball. So if he's going to get a solid rushing workload and he's a decent pass catching back, it's just Breda had a really good game as well against the Browns, so they kind of played him in those situations, and they controlled the clock and the entire game against the Browns. So really no need to throw to the running backs, but I think I like Tevin Coleman as a value play at 4,400 this week. And just to talk about some other guys, there's really no lower owned options out there under 4K. So you're definitely gonna just have to find the plays in this range that could be some salary relief. I guess I'll mention Chris Thompson. I don't mind him at 5,000 either in a great matchup. Adrian Peterson as well, 4,500. If the reports are true about the Redskins interim coach wanting to run the ball more, Adrian Peterson will be the guy to do the running. So I don't mind him if you need it. But let's move on to wide receiver. We got our top guys in Julio, Michael Thomas, D-Hop, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper. I love all of these guys this week. I think they're all in phenomenal spots. Julio against Arizona's bad secondary. I love that. Michael Thomas against Jacksonville. If Ramsey misses, I like that matchup. Hopkins against the Chiefs. Just obvious smash spot for Hopkins in a high-scoring game. Cooper Kupp has been phenomenal, getting peppered with targets, 17, 15, 12. Has gone over 100 yards in every game but week 1. Just putting up ridiculous numbers, and he's still relatively cheap, so I don't mind Kupp. Amari Cooper was limited in practice on Wednesday. That's news to me as I'm just saying this. But I think he'll be fine for week 6 against the Jets, and he is one of my favorite GPP options in this range, 7K. He's just been going off these last couple of games. Just this season in general, 26, 25, 42, had a down game on the road in New Orleans, but that's always a tough place to play. And he's getting a lot of targets. I love Cooper this week for 7,000. Tyreek Hill, if he's back, hashtag jam him in. Find a way to play Tyreek Hill. He has Millie Maker winning upside whenever he touches the field. And if he's good to go, they're going to play him. But, there could be an instance where they kind of want to ease him back in and maybe not give him his usual workload. But I don't really see that happening if he plays. But it's still out on him if he is going to play or not. So that's something to look at going forward in this week. Then we got guys like Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Larry Fitzgerald in this 6K range, and Odell. Adam Thielen is a great play again this week. Like I mentioned with Kirk Cousins, the Eagles are a pass funnel. They really have no cornerback depth right now, and Thielen is a great play at 6,700, so I don't mind him. Odell, hasn't been doing too hot. 10 fantasy points combined in the last 2 weeks. But that means this is a prime opportunity to buy low on Odell. So I like Odell a lot at 6,800 at home against the Hawks, who are giving up a good amount of points to opposing fantasy wide receivers. Don't mind Lockett. I don't mind Tyler Boyd this week. Marquise Brown. If he's low owned, I wouldn't mind pairing him with Lamar in a GPP. Obviously, we know he has Millie Maker winning potential. But I don't know if it's necessary to go there this week. And he's also questionable. Watkins is, made of plastic. He's always hurt, so just not going to talk about him. Fitzgerald, McLaurin, Demarcus Robinson, Will Fuller. Will Fuller absolutely smashed last week, 56 points. If you didn't play him, I feel bad for you. But I think this game is a spot to target, so I don't mind running it back this week with Will Fuller. Don't mind playing Fitzgerald, just don't know if he really has the upside to win a GPP. Hasn't really done much since his week 1 burst. It always seems like he falls off as the season goes along. McLaurin in the best possible matchup against Miami. I love this play at 6K. And especially if Case Keenum is back, because it looks like Keenum is their best quarterback on the roster right now. So I don't mind McLaurin at 6K. Diggs, 5.9, probably won't go there, although he is in a great matchup. I do love Gallup, 5,600 on the road. Just seeing an insane target share to start the year, 14, 8, 7 in 3 games. Just absolutely snapping anytime he goes on the field. So I do love Gallup a lot at 5,600. I think that's a spot to exploit is the Jets secondary, and I think Dak has a lot of upside this week. So I love Gallup a lot. Jarvis Landry is too cheap. Robert Woods is too cheap. I love DJ Chark this week at 5,500 against the Saints. Although Lattimore might shadow him, but I'm not too overly concerned about that. I think he has the best connection with Minshew, and he has seen steady targets, 8, 9, 5 targets in 4 games, 2 touchdowns last week. Just don't know about his upside against the Saints with Lattimore, but I wouldn't mind playing Chark. Same goes for D.D. Westbrook. I don't mind D.D. McCole Hardman obviously has big play upside, but he hasn't shown that he can hit a 30-point ceiling, in which we need for a GBP winner. I like Cortland Sutton. He's having a breakout year. I also like Sanders. I like these Broncos guys. Just don't know about Joe Flacco and the Broncos offense in general, and I don't really trust them enough to plug them into my lineup on a weekly basis. But for a one-off, I like Sutton or Sanders. I'm not really seeing many guys that I like in this bottom range besides Preston Williams is definitely my favorite play in this range. Just seeing, a solid amount of targets. Hasn't really turned into fantasy points, as he's only had 11, 10, 10, and 8. But, 12 targets, 7, 6 targets in 3 games. And they're going to face off against, a team that is just as bad as them. And I think this is a Preston Williams breakout week. He has good air yards, just hasn't converted into points. So I love Preston Williams this week at the bottom of this list. I also like Crowder a lot. He's getting Sam Darnold back, and Darnold likes to throw to the slot a lot. I don't mind Keyshawn Johnson at 3,900 against the Falcons. Falcons defense is just bad. Pringle is somebody to definitely monitor if Watkins and Hill miss. I think Pringle then becomes viable. Even in cash, if you want to play him in cash, I wouldn't mind it. But especially for MILLY Maker GBP, 3,500 in this game environment, especially if Mahomes is healthy enough to play, I think Pringle is the best 3K option on the board, especially if those injuries keep out Watkins and Hill. But yeah, with that being said, I think that's it for wide receiver. So we can move on to tight end. Really a really thin tight end pool week in and week out. We got Kelsey always at the top. Then we got the Ertz, Kittle, Hooper. I think it'd be dumb just to not lock in Hooper in every contest. We know the Arizona tight end flow chart, just a spot to target on a week in, week out basis. And Hooper is having a breakout year. 6, 7, 11, 9 targets. Just absurd for a 5K player, especially at tight end. I think he has major upside this week, and I love him in every format. I also love George Kittle. He's too cheap, 5,200. Don't really mind Ertz. Kelsey's always a good pay-up option, but I think we have to fit in running backs and wide receivers this week that are higher priced, so I don't think Kelsey is the most optimal play on the board. Herndon would definitely be in play at 3,500 if he didn't hurt his hamstring in his first practice back off suspension. Ricky Seals-Jones, I mean, if you want to take an absolute dart throw, I don't mind it, but I don't think there's no need to. Then we got Mark Andrews. I like Mark Andrews, against the Bengals. One of the best matchups on the board. Isn't practicing on Wednesday, but he should play. If you want to stack the Ravens, I don't mind it. But Andrews has definitely fallen off. But I think this is Austin Hooper week, and sprinkle in Kittle in your lineups. I think that's enough for tight end. Really not much for tight end this week, so I'm not going to go over that too in depth. Defense, We just want to find the spots to target. Obviously, we're not going to pay down to some of these defenses that have really no upside, like the Jets, Bengals, Cardinals. I don't mind paying down in cash, but for the MILLY maker, I don't think that's viable. Defense is kind of rough this week. I'd be inclined to play the Ravens defense at 4,100. At home against the Bengals, very bad offense, but that is definitely a spot that the Ravens D could either boom or bust, and they haven't been that good this season. I mean, they only scored 13 against Miami week 1. Their secondary is pretty bad right now, as they've given up I'm pretty sure the most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. So I don't mind the Ravens, but I don't know how I feel about them. A lot of ugly matchups this week in terms of defense. I wouldn't mind playing the Eagles defense again. Like, you needed the Eagles defense to win GPPs last week, as they scored 35 points, 2 defensive touchdowns. But there's really no matches to exploit. I mean, I'm not really seeing a clear-cut defense that you need to play this week. I think, you figure out what defense you want, which one fits your build, and I think that's the one you roll with. And, defense is all about, getting sacks, getting turnovers and touchdowns, and hoping to get a touchdown, I should say. So you pick some of these higher upside defenses and hope that they get a touchdown or a bunch of sacks or turnovers. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, also subscribe. Remember, go follow me on Twitter at JoeyCarrion_. New videos every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Time. Click the notification bell if you just want to get a notification when the video is available on YouTube. But that is going to be it for me. I'll see you guys next week.